Imagine walking through a forest that once echoed with silence. No alarm calls, no pug marks, no sign of its most iconic resident. Now imagine that same forest, just a decade later, alive again, with the deep, unmistakable roar of a tiger. This is not fiction. This is the story of revival, persistence, and careful conservation. Today, we're talking about one of India's most remarkable wildlife comeback stories, the revival of tigers in Panna National Park. Chapter 1, Understanding Panna. Let's start with where Panna is and why it matters. Panna National Park lies in the northern part of Madhya Pradesh, spread across the Vindhyan Ranges. It's a landscape that doesn't always get as much attention as parks like Bandhavgarh or Kanha, but ecologically, it's just as rich. The terrain here is strikingly diverse: dry, deciduous forests, open grasslands, plateaus, and deep gorges. Cutting through all of this is the lifeline of the park, the Ken River. The Ken River is crucial. It provides year round water, shapes the terrain, and supports prey populations, which in turn support predators like the tiger. Historically, Panna was best known for healthy populations of prey like cheetal, sambar, and nilgai, a variety of predators including leopards, wolves, and of course, tigers. Unique landscapes with dramatic cliffs and riverine ecosystems. In short, Panna had everything a tiger would need: water, cover, and prey. Which is why what happened next was shocking. Chapter 2, The Fall of Panna. The decline didn't happen overnight. In the early 2000s, concerns began to emerge. Tiger sightings were becoming less frequent. Pug marks, a key tracking method at the time, were disappearing. By around 2006 2008, the situation had turned critical. And then came the confirmation. By 2009, Panna had lost all its tigers. Yes, zero. From being a designated tiger reserve under Project Tiger, it had become one of the most alarming examples of local extinction in India. The primary causes: poaching, often organized and systematic, weak monitoring and protection mechanisms at the time, possibly management lapses. This wasn't just wildlife loss, it was a credibility crisis for conservation in India. Because if a protected reserve could lose all its tigers, what did that say about the system? Chapter 3, The Turnaround, Reintroduction and Recovery. What happened next is what makes Panna's story so important. Instead of giving up, authorities decided to attempt something bold: reintroduction of tigers. In 2009, the very first step was taken. A tigress, often referred to as T1, was translocated from Bandhavgarh National Park to Panna. Soon after, another tigress, T2, was brought in from Kanha National Park. Then came a male tiger, T3, also from Kanha. These were not random choices. The idea was to introduce genetically viable individuals into a habitat that could support them, and then let nature take its course under careful monitoring. What made this effort different? Radio collaring and constant tracking, intensive protection measures, strict anti poaching patrols, scientific monitoring of prey base and habitat, and crucially, the habitat itself was still intact. The prey populations had survived. The forests were still capable of supporting big cats. The Ken River continued to sustain the ecosystem. Then came the turning point. The relocated tigresses began to breed. Cubs were born in the wild, not in captivity, not in enclosures, but in Panna itself. Over time, more cubs survived, territories were established, dispersal began. From just a handful of introduced individuals, the population started to grow. Some of the early tigresses became the foundation of this revival. Their successful breeding essentially seeded the population. Within a decade, Panna went from zero to a thriving tiger population, a rare conservation success story. Chapter 4: The People Behind the Success. Conservation stories are never just about animals, they're about people. One of the key figures often associated with Panna's revival is R.S. Murthy, who played a major role during the reintroduction phase. Another important contributor was Y.V. Jhala from the Wildlife Institute of India, who was deeply involved in scientific monitoring and planning. There were also numerous forest guards, trackers, and frontline staff, people whose names don't make the headlines always, but whose daily work made protection possible. A widely cited sentiment from conservation circles during this period was, quotes, "If protection is strong and habitat is intact, tigers can bounce back." This idea became almost a guiding principle for Panna. Another perspective, often echoed by conservationists involved in tiger recovery efforts. Quotes, "Reintroduction is not just about bringing animals in, it's about rebuilding trust in the system." These aren't just quotes, they reflect the shift in how conservation was approached from reactive to proactive, from guesswork to science based management. Chapter 5: Panna Today. Today, Panna National Park is no longer a story of loss, it's a story of resilience. The park now supports a growing population of tigers along with leopards, sloth bears, wild dogs, a strong prey base. The landscape now is once again active with predator prey dynamics. The Ken River continues to be central, especially during dry seasons when animals depend on it for survival. There are now dominant males that control territories, dispersing subadults and breeding females, raising cubs. All signs of a healthy, functioning ecosystem. Importantly, tigers have also started moving beyond the core area of the park, indicating connectivity with surrounding landscapes. Chapter 6: Lessons from Panna. So, what can we learn from this? At a personal level, recovery is possible even after complete loss. Systems can fail, but they can also be rebuilt. Consistency matters more than quick fixes. At a national level for India, conservation works when it is science based and well protected. Habitat preservation is just as important as species protection. Local staff and on ground implementation are critical. Crisis can become an opportunity for reform. Panna showed that extinction at a local scale doesn't have to be permanent if action is timely and well planned. Chapter 7: Closing Thoughts. The story of Panna National Park is not just about bringing back tigers, it's about restoring balance. A forest without its apex predator is incomplete, but a forest that regains it through effort, patience, and collaboration becomes something even more powerful. It becomes proof. Proof that conservation is not just about protecting what exists, but also about rebuilding what was lost. And perhaps the next time someone asks whether wildlife conservation really works, Panna has a clear answer. Yes, it does. Life finds a way.